Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mama Tales podcast. I'm your host, Sally Kuria. It feels great to be back on here, like proper. In the past week, I have just been doing story recordings. I've been working on this podcast. And now being back to editing episodes and releasing them, it feels nice so that I can finish out this season with a bang after the very long hiatus. Thank you so much for being here, taking the time to listen, taking the time to engage with me. And if you're wondering what I mean, is just that I really love talking to a lot of you guys on social media, mostly on Instagram. So you can find this podcast on Instagram at Mama Tales Podcast and my own personal Instagram as well. That's at Salim Ogore. So what's happening in my life? Well, like I said, I'm very excited to be back on the grind. I've realized that my safe times to be working on this podcast is at night when the baby is asleep. Well, both babies are asleep and hubby's just taking a chill pill. So it's like alone time, which is great. So really enjoying that space and time in my life. I don't know. Is there anything to really talk about, like the newborn life? It's just a lot of fatigue, tons of breastfeeding, a lot of spit up. He peed on me. Well, that's a thing that usually happens, but oh well, we survive. We move on. But I guess the thing that I want to talk about is just like how amazing it has been being back and engaging with moms, especially like the stories I've been recording, and I can't wait to share them with you because I think they're really powerful, and I'm very, very thankful for those women who took that time to just, first of all, trust this platform, trust me, and trust all of us for listening to their stories and find it relatable and find inspiration from them. So like this first story that I'm sharing today is one that I literally learned so much from. Like my eyes were opened, my heart was open, my mind was open. I was able to see a new perspective of life. And to just give you a sneak peek, it's just like, who said that parenting is the mom's, or rather even just the burden of all of it is the mom's sole responsibility, So I won't talk too much about that and just let you listen to the story and just understand just how powerful it is to be very self-aware, to understand like the type of choices you need to make to be a better parent. But before we listen to the story, I do have to apologize. So you see, how do I start this? It's been a while, right, since I recorded stories, and it's not like riding a bike, at least not for me. Every time I have to learn something new. So that's what happened this time around. I had to learn something new. The platform that I was using to virtually record stories changed, and I had already scheduled this story. I didn't even have time to like go through the platform before the recording time. I didn't have that because I was putting the baby to sleep. So long story short, when we were done recording, and I haven't even told the storyteller this, once I clicked, yeah, we're done. Ideally, I just wait there for the recordings to appear. Could you believe it that they did not? My heart sank. My heart sank to the complete floor. I was just like, that's it. I've just lost something so beautiful and I have no idea how to get it back. And it's not the same. You can't just be like, hey, can we repeat that? It was over an hour and a half of conversation. You just can't repeat that. So I was it's not even mad. I was so disappointed with myself. I'm just like, man, you could have really taken the time to understand the platform. So I took the time, I really searched and I found cloud backups. But the problem with the backups is that, so normally I usually record separate tracks. So you mostly listen to the storyteller's track and my one and off questions. Did I get the chance to do that this time? No, because the cloud backups on that platform are just one single track. So both our audios are together. And it doesn't sound as like such a big problem until you realize I'm such an active listener, right? So to just help people feel comfortable, or even just myself feel comfortable when you're recording stories, is I do give a lot of feedback. And since I cannot separate the tracks, you will hear a lot of that feedback. So there's a lot of ums and yas and wow. There's a time where I would not have released that story because of that. But that level of perfectionism has slowly left the building. So I'm just giving you a heads up that you will hear a lot more of me. I'm sorry about that. But I hope, I truly, truly, sincerely hope it doesn't take away from the story, because that story is just one in a million. So I'll just end here and hand you over to today's storyteller.
Hi, Sally. So my name is Cynthia. I'm a mom to a 5-year-old boy. I'm a program manager, project manager, product manager. So I work with technical teams to build products. I'm an amateur runner, an amateur cyclist. I am a hiker as well, and I enjoy travel. My motherhood journey has been quite beautiful and challenging as well. Of course, everyone says motherhood is challenging, but for me, motherhood has been beautiful in the sense that I've discovered more of myself as I try to bring up my son. My child was not planned. My child was an oops baby. I wasn't even thinking about children at that time. But then when it came, for me, I actually didn't think so much about it. I just told the child's father that, hey, this is what is happening. We are pregnant, and he was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't mind having a child, and I was like, cool, yeah, sure, let's do this. I didn't put so much thought into it. I think it hit me when I had my first scan. I think at around 6 weeks that, oh yeah, I'm having a child. But throughout the whole pregnancy, for me, I was easy. I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, we are in my head back then. In my head, it was, yeah, we are supposed to become adults, have children, have partners, have careers. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is definitely the natural progression. So let's do this.
So, like, at a follow-up question, at what stage of life were you when you discovered you're pregnant?
I was actually in campus. Yeah, but I was in between. I would say I was in between school and work because I wasn't so much into learning. I was more about building a startup. So I was doing open source projects, trying to learn how to code while also trying to get through school, because that's what my mom wanted for me to finish school. So
Yeah.
when the pregnancy came, I was like, oh yeah, this is an easy one. I'll just focus on my career and
Ah,
motherhood. Yeah, let's
yeah.
go. Yeah,
Okay.
chap chap.
At any one point, did you feel like motherhood would be a hindrance to your success?
Actually, I think I was in the at the point where when the pregnancy came and the child's father was like, okay, we are keeping it. I just thought, okay, this is great. It means that the child's father will just put a roof over our heads and take care of the child. I'll give birth to this child as I continue to figure out my stuff. So I just was like, I was happy to be a mother. Like I had those motherly instincts. I didn't feel like motherhood was competing with my career ambition. You know, back then I just thought that's life. Like women are meant to, you know, to
Yeah.
mother. But
Interesting.
it caught up with me later on. So remember, I'm really tying back then. I was really tying motherhood to my relationship, to my love relationship, right? I already see this person as a provider, and that I don't have to worry about anything. So all I have to worry about is motherhood, right? Like getting
Yeah.
this baby out and taking care of the baby. I don't have to think about anything else. But then that ground suddenly becomes shaky as we progress. You know, like what I thought about my relationship at that time with my partner at that time was unfolding to be totally different. So mid-pregnancy, it hits me that, oh, I think I might need to be just more than a mother. I have to also try and provide for myself and my child, so that in case of anything, I am still able to take care of myself and my child. So I start doing interviews at 7 months pregnant. So I would go to interviews with very baggy clothes because I'm thinking, who will hire a pregnant mother, and in 2 months I'll be going out for maternity, right? So even walking into the interview rooms, it's something that back in the day I didn't feel like I needed to reveal at first, like, hey, my name is Cynthia and I'm pregnant, but I still want this job. You know, it was more of like, oh yeah, I'm up to the task. Let's get the job first, and then we'll deal with the whole pregnancy issue later. Yeah, so luckily I actually opted to do a remote job. And then I get this remote job that I'm supposed to start on around the due date, around the child's due date, right?
Gosh.
And remember, I don't want to turn it down because I already foresee myself being in a space where I actually need to be
a
self-sufficient
provider.
financially. Yeah. So I tell these guys, okay, I'll be ready to start. And unfortunately, I actually give birth the night of the start date.
Gosh. Oh no.
Actually, that's exactly what happened. So I get this gig and I'm supposed to start immediately. But the good thing is I had an easy pregnancy. I was active throughout. So even when it came to the childbirth, I would say it wasn't that bad. Yeah, I just labored for 2 hours. Of course, it
Wow.
was induced, and I had a normal birth. Everything was fine. My son was fine. We were ready to go home the next day, and I was happy. I'm happy because, guys, it's okay. We are done with the childbirth.
Yeah.
We need to start getting
Ready
back
to
to
go
the
to
career part. Yeah, I need to go
gosh.
back to work. And
Wow.
that was my first week actually of having a child. So I'm figuring out how to become a mom and also trying to show up for work. Luckily, it's just a remote job, so I just do my deliverables for the day. And like you were saying, with newborns, the good thing is you don't have to do much in the first days. Yeah. So that's how it looked like.
How did you juggle that? And I asked this in terms of like any support you were getting at that time.
Remember, for me, during the whole pregnancy, I'm not thinking so much about, like how it will unfold having a child, like the support. So for me, it was like, okay, I had a quite an easy time. I came back. I think I didn't even have help. I didn't have help by that time. I thought I could do it all, And also in terms of family, I didn't have so much support because of various reasons. So it was just me, the child, and my then partner who was working. Yeah, but it was mostly me and my child actually. It was, and remember, my friends were not in that having child phase. So honestly, it's like I'm doing it alone. But at that time, I think I was so preoccupied in trying to just get everything together that I didn't realize that, oh yeah, you actually need people around you. For me, it was like, okay, let's just get this baby as big as possible and let's get the job going. So the job, luckily the job was a 3-month gig. So I knew after 3 months, at least I would have something, and the
Yeah.
child would have been a little bit grown. I can
Yeah.
now move to a job like that I have to go to the office. Yeah. Maybe to just put on that, I did 7 months before actually getting an actual job that I had to go to the office. So I was with my son every single day,
Yeah.
single day, and I didn't realize the effects of that. I was really focused on, let's get money, let's keep this child alive, and that
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
goal. So very little support.
That's crazy to think about, because you say that you needed to show up at least at the very least for 3 months, which
Yeah,
are the most crucial 3 months for
yeah,
any new mom.
yeah,
So having to do that by yourself is in fact what I would call a miracle. Do you ever
yeah.
look back and be like, what was that? Like, how
I
insane was
know.
that period?
Yeah, and I think that period really, like, looking back even now when I look back, it
Mhm.
has really shaped how I view motherhood. Like I keep on saying, like, don't at least don't get a child if you
Yeah.
don't have a support system, not just a
Mhm.
partner, but family. If you can get someone, you can pay someone to help you, at least
Yeah.
get help, get have a solid support system.
All right. Now taking you back to something you told me before we started recording, is that you had to make a pretty difficult decision earlier on in your son's life about his care and you pretty much being the secondary parent. Do you wanna just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
tell me a little bit more about that?
So remember, my whole
Mm-hmm.
foundation of parenting is actually falling apart. Me knowing
Mm,
that I don't have to do so much in terms of
yeah.
providing for my child, but then that takes a whole 360 degrees, and I need to actually be able to give myself options. Like, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
to choose myself and walk away from that situation, I need to be able to at least stand on my own and
Mm-hmm.
provide for my child, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I make a conscious decision that I need to leave my child's father, right? And we try and do this whole co-parenting thing. So the moment I decided to just move, like, I'm going, then COVID happened. And then in that mix up, I happened to lose my job. So I'm in the middle of pandemic. I'm in
Yeah.
the middle of a job loss. And I
Mm-hmm.
know for sure those two reasons are not going to keep me in my current relationship. So
Yeah.
I need to move. So luckily, I have a small business. I sell gymwear, and I had been
Mm-hmm.
doing that business as a side hustle. So
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my friend, and we are thinking, okay, do you think you can fully survive on this business? Because it's a business I had never done full time
Mm-hmm.
for it to cater to all my needs. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to move from the situation that I was in to a much better situation. So I wasn't trying to lower any
Yeah.
standards for
Yeah.
my son. I just wanted him to have the same quality or even better as I did. So I just took a bet on my business, and we moved out. And I broke my back trying to just, by then I'm being driven by so much anxiety, like, okay,
Yeah.
we need to make rent. I need to be able to make sure that I feed you. I need to pay for the nanny, and all of it has to come from this business, right?
Yeah.
And we are not trying to to sell the car. We are not trying to move to a cheaper house.
Yeah.
The constant has to remain, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
did that for 7 months, until one day I noticed that, okay, I'm literally breaking apart. Like, I've lost so much weight. I
Mm-hmm.
have anxiety. I'm not sleeping at night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a social life, right? My son is fine. He's well taken care of. Things are
Mm-hmm.
happening for him, but I'm losing myself. So one day, my good friend asks me, why are you breaking yourself? I'm like, okay, I'm the one who's been left to take care of this child, and
Mm-hmm.
I have very few options. But
Mm-hmm.
my friend asked me, don't you think this child has a father? I'm like, yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
has a father. The father is alive and well. Then she's like, he's equally a parent.
Yeah.
No. My son has to stay with me.
The mother, yeah.
What do you mean? And definitely I'm not going back. So I have to continue breaking my back. And she continued floating that idea around until one day I got my child to go to their dad, right? For a week. And in that week, I slept. That's the first time in a long time I slept. And then my friend asked me, okay, why can't you let him stay there? I'm like, no, I don't think he'll be fine. She's like, what do you mean? Wouldn't the child eat? I'm like, yeah, the child is eating. Is he fine? I'm like, yeah, he's fine. And then she's like, okay, so why can't you just let the child stay? You breathe, get yourself back together, try and get a job or get your life back together.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's a bit impossible. But then I just, my options were very limited at that. I felt like my hands were literally tied, I needed to breathe. So I decided, let my child stay with their father. And my child stayed the first month, the second month,
Wow.
the third month. Okay. And on this side, I'm now starting to apply for jobs. I'm aggressively interviewing. I've gotten myself back together. I even met someone in the process, and my mental health is actually becoming much better. So I get a job. I think 5 months later, I get a job, and then everyone is looking at me like, okay. See, you now have a job. Why don't you go get your son? Yeah, but then I'm thinking, okay, I'm still heavily a bit in debt. I don't have my savings because I cleared everything trying to survive the pandemic. And in case this ever happens again, I need to have a buffer for myself to be able to just take care of my son comfortably. So I put a target. I'm like, after getting this job, I'll need 6 months to fully get back on my feet. And my mom is looking at me like, a child should be with the mother.
Yeah.
Everyone is telling me, a child should be with the mother. Why are you letting the child stay with the father? Even the father is wondering, why am I not taking care of my child? Is it that I've absconded my duties? What type of a mother am I? But for me, I was so focused. I had a plan. I knew this is what I need to do in the next 6 months. And I even narrowed it down to the date that I would be able to take care of my son. And with that, it came with a lot of conflict because now it seemed like I didn't want my child. And I for a few months, I couldn't see my child because, ordinarily when parents separate, you find that the child stays with the mother and the father is the one who is doing visitation. For me, it was opposite. So now that it seemed that I was not going to take care of my child or take him back, I was denied visitation. So all of a sudden, I can't see my child. When I'm told, why can't you take your child? I'm like, okay, I also can't take him. I'm not yet ready. So I'm thinking, how do we go from here, right? And I had to just stay below the noise, stay the course, because I knew I don't think I'm able to parent without having a solid plan where I don't have to break, I don't have to have a mental breakdown or so much anxiety. I need to just parent comfortably, right? And I did it. After the 6 months, I felt like, okay, now I am ready. And I confidently went back for my child. Good thing that was easy. And then now I have my child staying with me and we are comfortable and much stronger knowing, okay, in the case where I am unable to take care of my child ever, even let's say, well, it comes to a place where I'm not available on this earth, I know my child has the father, and the father is an equal parent. I think he stayed close to a year. I stayed without him and he was fine. He was fed, he was clothed. So just fighting also my own insecurities and allowing the child to just thrive in whatever environment he's placed in. Was a big lesson. And at the end of the day, it also, I'm not held back by my child. I know as long as he's comfortable, I can travel. I can go for my hikes. I can live my own life, not having to tie it to my son.
Hey, that's a lot, and many a times it can feel quite controversial because society pegs all pretty much most of the parental responsibility towards the mother. So
Exactly.
hearing that you are not the primary parent, I can see how that raised a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, was he was around what, 3 years old at that point?
Yeah, he was around 3. So I took him as he was just turning 4 years.
How was your relationship with your son's father at that time? Because I can imagine by you saying that you were denied some visitation rights,
Yeah.
it must have been a bit strained at some point.
Oh my God, we had so much drama because on one end, I'm saying I can't stay with the child. On one end, I'm also saying I want to be able to see the child. And the child's father is like, okay, if you can't stay with the child, why are you even seeing the child in the first place? Can you just let us be? So for him, he was coming from that point. Why have I left that responsibility to him and I'm not taking up that responsibility? And we even had a pastor trying to come in and intervene. And to think of it, the pastor also asks the same question, like, why can't you stay with your child? And I'm like, guys, I'm not ready. We had friends trying to intervene, and the push was, you take the child, you take the child. Even the parents involved were like, go take your child. And I'm like, I'm not ready. So you find that almost everyone didn't understand. So it was a position where, Cynthia, we don't understand you and we think you can't be helped, right? So the people I had who really understood what I was trying to achieve was mostly just one of my friends who was like, okay, yeah, because she's a strong believer that parental responsibility should be 50-50, and men are just as equal parent. As whatever a woman can do, a man can also do it. You can also parent and raise your child. So it was lonely in that sense.
I can see how it's lonely. And what you're saying, that the father has to take equal rights. It sounds great on paper because I mean, surely he is half the parent, but
Yeah.
society doesn't see it that way. So I can imagine,
Yeah.
other than the wrangles that you are going through from everyone else, like how did you personally cope with that time apart?
I'm in a position where I'm like thinking, okay, I can't see my child. I'm in this house that I got for us. So I'm here alone, lonely. But then you remember, I think for me, I was so deeply focused. The focus was just to get my shit together and get my child back. Right? I knew all the conflict, there was also a bit of insults here and there. They would come, of course. I would feel so bad about it, but then again, what was the end goal here? If I let it get to me and go back and I'm like, okay, I've crumbled, I agree, I need to carry this burden, bring the child back, I would just go back to where I was, right? So for me, it was just having that focus, always just focusing on what am I trying to achieve here.
Hey,
And
that
luckily,
sounds
you remember in the process, I met someone which made it much easier, because now I had also a lot of emotional support from that person. Like whenever those fights would happen, at least I would have someone who I would talk to and relate and be like, okay, let's just keep our heads down, let's focus. Yeah, I can only control how I react, but the rest of the guys, there was nothing I could do about it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's some strong stuff, Cynthia.
Yeah.
I commend you for that. So
Yeah.
how was your relationship with your son during this time when you're apart?
So I would occasionally see him, and then I would feel so disappointed when I tell him bye and he's like bye and he doesn't even cry. I'm like, dude,
Gosh. Yeah.
Are you so comfortable? But then again, also that gave me a lot of comfort, because I'm like, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. Like,
Yeah.
whatever months we've lost, we will regain them, right? And also, I
Yeah.
think it's also important to say that for me, I lost my parents when I was young, and I feel I've turned out great. So I knew that even if my son was to lose me today, I want him to be able to turn out well. As
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So also my goal was, I need to have a well adjusted child. That's my desire, to have a child who's able to adapt, and by that age, I don't think he understood much. I knew he would see his dad more and his mom less, but I knew we would have a lot of time once I get him back, to just build the bond back, and you
Yeah.
can see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you raise something really important, the fact that you'll always have time to bring those months back, because sometimes we go through some stuff and we imagine that's the end of the world, and you never have time or anything to make it up, but it's such a small blip in the entirety of your lives together,
Yeah, and
such
also,
that yeah.
yeah, and also, we forget. We
Yeah.
think that we have so much control. We forget
Mhm.
that we don't know how tomorrow is going to
True.
look like.
Yeah.
We think we'll be here forever for our
Mm.
children, but that may
Mm.
not always be the case.
Mm. But I commend you for doing the most to be able, because if you didn't take that time off, you probably would be as great a mother as you are right now, or at least feel that confident about it. Do you ever sit back and regret the decision, or is there anything you would do different?
Actually, no.
Mm.
I think it has given me a lot of confidence that, one, man, kids are resilient. Kids are
Mm.
resilient, and kids will always surprise you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And also, it has given me, I have this very loose attachment, I would
Mhm.
say, to things and these values that have been screwed to us. Like, I don't believe that your mothers are supposed to be the sole caregivers, right? So
Mhm.
I am not this mom who will be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't join you guys because I have to stay with my son. There are
Mhm.
people who
Mhm.
use that also
Yeah.
as excuses, right? And
Mhm.
also, I don't have that fear that, when you fear that, oh, my child is too young, or what
Yeah.
will I let go of that fear. And if it were to happen again, I'm confident that the child's father is very capable of raising my son. Yeah, I don't have to do it alone. Yeah.
So, do you still have a co-parenting relationship until now, like a proper one?
I would say we are right now we are getting the
Mm.
hang of it,
Mhm.
So when I took my child back, now it was because of our relationship, now it felt like it's payback. Like, oh yeah, I held
Ah.
it down for
Mm.
this number of months. Now it's your turn, right? It's your turn
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah.
And then you remember,
Uh-huh.
by that time my child is turning 4, so he
Mhm.
needs to start school.
Mhm.
So there's even more responsibility, but
Mhm.
thank God, because of the foundation that I had laid, and like
Mhm.
emotionally and financially, I was ready for it.
Mhm.
So I held it down for my child, like, until we
Yeah.
are able to get the co-parenting footing right. So it's also a matter of, even when it comes to responsibilities, like,
Yeah.
you are supposed to do this, I'm doing this, right? I just trust that the child's father will do what he's supposed to do, right? I'm
Yeah.
not so quick to pick up the slack, as women.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this hasn't been done, I am the
Yeah.
one who's going to do it. Or even you start pigaing kelele, mbona
Yeah, you're
hujafanya nini,
mad.
nini, 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 nini?" No, man, I trust that
Hey, you've
this
done
is
the work.
parental
Yeah.
responsibility. Like, it's yours. Like, let's say, for example, if let's say the fees has not been paid, right? The school
Mm-mm.
calls me. For me, I wouldn't go and be like, oh, this hasn't been done. I'll be like, okay, can we just please talk to the child's father directly. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't. I'm not bitter about it. I'm not going to pick a fight about it. It's your responsibility. You just deal with it. For me, I'm taking up my responsibility. Yeah, there's that mutual respect, right?
Yeah, that's unlocking another level, because I don't know if it was instilled on us as kids. You just you feel like you're the one who has to do it. If it's not done, it's just and then you harbor some resentment. You do it angrily.
Yeah, even when you, for me, when I feel like, oh yeah, it's the cold season, Ethan needs sweaters. As a woman, utajipeleka uko soko, you'll be going to the market, you're the one shopping. No, sometimes I'm like, okay, I've tried, it's getting cold, Ethan doesn't have XYZ, do you mind getting some? And the first time I tried, I was surprised because the child came back with what I had asked for, I just simply asked and said what I needed. I was surprised at first. I'm like, wow, okay, this is surprising. You see, I think sometimes we just burden ourselves.
No true words have been spoken.
Because I'm sure if it were the old Cynthia, I would be like, I won't even tell him. You know what? I'll look for money. I'll go buy. And then, I don't know if you've seen even women, some women on social media, and they take photos of their children. I saw a meme. Someone was like, sweater bought by mommy, trouser bought by mommy. Some people send their child, but for me, I'm like, okay, we are doing this together. I'll tell you what the child. I'm not asking for myself. Let's just focus on the child, what the child needs. But for me, it actually took my friend. I think I have my friend Rose, who would just tell me, why can't you ask the father? And a lot of times I'll tell her, I can do that. And why do you have to? Do you really have to do it? Right? Maybe something just funny. I hope it doesn't sound insensitive. There's a time when my child was staying with a dad. My child happened to fall sick, right? So the dad is telling me, oh, Cynthia, the child is unwell. We are going to hospital. So the expectation at that point is that you drop everything, right, that you're doing. But then at that level, I unlocked the child again is with the father, right? It was a flu. It was actually a flu. And they'll get to hospital. They will be attended to, right? I don't have to be gaslit or feel some emotional blackmail to be there, right? I need to be there because I want to be there. I want to see my child, but not because, again, you're the mother. This is something you should be dropping everything for. And in that case, how many times is your child sick and you even get to hospital? You do everything without the child's father being there. I'm sure most women have done it a lot of times, right? Yeah, so unlocking such things, it doesn't mean you're a bad mom.
Yeah,
you're not a bad mom. The child is in good hands, right?
Exactly.
You can get there as soon as you can get there, but you don't have to get anxiety, to feel by you not being there, you're doing something so wrong. Yeah, I think you should just let also other people parent as well, right?
So that they also train those muscles, and
I know it's a bit heavy and controversial, but yeah,
it is. Unfortunately, it is. That's the bad part about it, because it really shouldn't. If roles were reversed, this is a completely normal behavior.
Yeah.
However, because it's the other way around, all of a sudden, it's going to make people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you need to train that muscle, especially when it comes to co-parenting.
Yeah.
Because you'll find that as a woman, you're very available. to your child, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, like for my case, I can be like, most times I'm here, I'm available. I do school drop off, school pickups. I'm here over the weekends, But then you see what that one day, one weekend, you need to maybe do something.
Yeah.
Maybe your other parent will tell you, "Oh, I'm too busy. My calendar is full," right? And that could equally be you as the mother.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so you
These are
need to
very
you need to train it. Like you also have
yeah.
things to do,
Yeah.
and as much as the child needs the father, you don't have to carry all the emotional. Yeah.
Yeah.
You also just need to train the other person to know that, look, this is 50-50. You do it this time, I do it next time. In that discussion, it's not a matter of, oh, I'm too busy. You make
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, and you'd find
Hey.
that even in the months that my child wasn't with me, the dad had to figure out how the child will get help, like how the child will be taken care of during the day, how he'll go to work, the things that a woman
You
has
have
to
to see
figure.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, all
So
hats to you. Just
men
like
are equally capable. I think it's just
yeah.
society and how we've been raised. So getting my child back, the child needs to start school, right?
Yeah.
But at that point, Ethan is around 4 years, and he's not he's not how would I say it? He's not communicating in terms of verbal communication. So he can show you what he wants, but mostly he doesn't have, like, you can't have a conversation with him. He's just quiet. He can listen, he understands what you're saying, but he's unable to process it. And let's say, Ethan, can you get me something? So he just does the action, but there's no communication in between. So we start looking for schools, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm looking for schools that are closer to me. So we go to this one school, and one of the teachers looks at my son, engages him for about 15 minutes, and tells me, "Oh, I think your son is autistic." I'm like, I don't think so. But
Yeah.
he's like, it seems like he's virtually autistic. So virtual autism comes about when a child is exposed to devices and screens for a long time. And understandably, we used to leave him just on the screen most
Yeah.
times, because during those the year that he wasn't with me, of course he was with help, and the help would just leave him on the
On the
TV,
TV.
so he's
Yeah.
not engaged. So that school teacher advises that we go see a specialist, right, to find the right diagnosis. So in my head, I'm thinking, no, my gut is that my child is a normal child. Like, I don't think he's just having speech delays, but he's very intelligent. He's normal. But I knew the speech was a problem. So we go see a specialist and spend a couple of days with the specialist, examines the child, and comes and tells me, actually, Cynthia, your child is fine. We just need to do two things right now. Actually, she said three things. We need, number one, to get him off the screens completely. I'm thinking, how do I
Do
limit
that.
screen time? Like,
Yeah.
that's what he's used to. How do I just switch off the TV and he never watches TV? It seemed like it was so difficult because all he could talk was TV talk, what he consumed from the TV. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, how do I engage him with no TV? I
TV.
didn't have an idea of how that could work. Then she says we need to get him to an environment where there are other children. So where he was, there were not so many kids, and also where he was coming to, there were not so many kids. So the best we could do is just enroll him to a school
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. And then she said the third thing, we need to do therapy for him. And the cost of therapy is like 6,000 per session. And we need to do like 10 sessions.
Gosh.
And it needs to be done as soon as possible.
Oh no.
Oh no! So I'm already overloaded by all these things that we need to do. And then luckily, I think also maybe the universe or God sends you what you need when you need it. So my son coming back to live with me meant I have to get a new house help. So they're all new. They are all new in my house. So I tell
Yeah,
her, like, okay, look,
exactly.
we have to have no TV for Ethan.
Yeah.
And then she got it the first time I told her, and she ensured that there was no TV actually in my house. And she really enforced it. Even the time when I wanted to maybe give him a cheat day, she would be like, no TV, no TV for
Wow.
him. And instead she used to take him out to play with other children, engage him. And now kidogo kidogo we see him now. We see Ethan now coming into our world. You know, he was so absorbed into the TV world, right? But
Yeah.
at school, Ethan is struggling. Ethan can't settle down. Like he doesn't know how to settle down. He doesn't know how to interact with other children. So every other day during school pickup, it would be one case to another. And I'm telling you, it's so overwhelming. Even going for school pickup, you're already filled with so much anxiety. You're wondering, so what am I going to be told my child did today? And then, it's like, is it that my child is the only one who screams in that school? Aren't there other children who scream? But I thank God, because again, the teacher that was handling my son she was so empathetic, and she was so full of compassion. Like she really tried to draw Ethan back. By the time we were finishing the first year of school, Ethan was actually now talking, like he could say his name,
Yeah.
And then remember, I was told I need to do therapy. So I thought about it, okay, we need to do this therapy. I was like, okay, if that's the thing that we need to do to get my child to be, fine, we'll do it. I'll get that money and we'll do it, right? But then again, my instincts kept on telling me, no, give it time. Let him just settle first in school. Let's see how he interacts with other children. So by the time we are getting to the third term, Ethan has a best friend at school who used to teach him. So they used to do everything together, eat together, go to the toilet together, and the speech started just coming slowly. Eventually, he could say 2 words, right?
Wow.
And then something else the school did for me, they gave him a dedicated teacher. So in his class, he would have 2 teachers. There would be 2 teachers because Ethan couldn't settle and his attention span was very limited. They had a teacher for him so that he could just learn for a few minutes. When he wants to go outside, they would go outside with the teacher and even learn outside, come back to class. Like they really gave him what he needed.
School.
Yeah, and eventually they just reduced the reporting. They wouldn't tell me that this is what happened. I think eventually they started knowing how to handle him and take control of his situation at school. So also that gave me a lot of peace. And right now my son is talking.
Wow.
I call him my parrot.
Wow.
Ethan talks our ears off. He literally keeps quiet when he goes to sleep. It was so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine, because you really had to trust yourself.
Yeah, and remember a lot of it being really with little support. Like I'm telling you, my friends, not so many of my friends have children, and also you can't hold it to them that, oh yeah, you guys don't understand. There's so much they can do.
It's true. You can't put
They
it
can
on
do
them.
for you. Yeah, so sometimes you just have to put on your big girl panties and tackle what needs to be tackled. Then find ways to like self-soothe yourself. Because I remember I used to even cry because I'm like, oh my God, this is too much. I don't think I can handle it. But then Ethan needs me to handle it for him. Then that's why again I go, like, it's good to as much as I would say, like, there's no that motherhood community. I think now I have a very community of people who just know me as Cynthia, the person,
The
not the
person, not
mother. Yeah,
Cynthia,
so
the
there's
mother.
that place where I get to get an outlet of Cynthia, the person, and that's where I hike, I travel, I do do me, because at the end of the day I need to do all these things for myself so that I'm a good mom to Ethan, like present. I'm not overwhelmed. He has all the energy from me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he ever interested in joining you in your escapades?
This is a bit controversial, but I don't want him to join me in my escapades.
You want them to be just yours.
Yeah, I'm actually selfish with them, because I remember there's a friend who
Yeah.
told me, "Oh, I think we should probably camp with the kids." I'm like, okay, number one, I don't think this is something my son would enjoy at this age. You know, like I don't want to just do it because, oh yeah, this is something cool people do with their children. No, I want to make sure that he enjoys it. Number two, I just want it to be for me. For me,
Yeah.
it's for me. For Ethan, we do a lot. He goes for football. We do all those things together. And I find that a lot of my time and energy is really dedicated to him. I get little for myself. So whatever is there for myself, I'm
You
like,
take it. Yeah.
dude, no, we can occasionally go for a walk, but and if I'm
Please.
to travel, I know I'm just going to travel for him. When I do something, I think with him, it's purely dedicated to him. Yeah. So it's church and state for me.
That's that's very fair, because, and I think a lot of us moms need to find just that pocket where
Yeah.
you're serving just your needs,
Yeah.
and that's fine, because now you come back with a cup that's full for
That's
you.
full. Yeah, because I've traveled with moms, and they're like, "Oh my God, I should probably do this with my child. Oh my God, I feel so bad for leaving my child." You know, you're in that constant state of you've attached everything to your child.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're even somewhere and you don't get to fully be present for yourself or for your partner or for other people, because you're just thinking about your child, who doesn't even remember you. Like, they'll see you for 2 minutes, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, she's here, bye."
And then move on to the next thing. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And if you are to look back to that Cynthia who found that she was pregnant the first time, what would you tell yourself?
Man, I think I would explore more, you know, like in terms of options, you know, like really asking yourself, like, now you're pregnant, what are your options? Because I feel I robbed myself, or rather I didn't see any other option other than going through it as a marriage, and this is the thing that is bringing us together. I mean, I would give myself so many options. Like, is there a co-parenting option from that? Is it that do we want to raise this child apart? How do I want to navigate my career and having a child? Do I have to keep the child? You know, those are some of the options that I should have presented myself. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go with the flow. I still don't have another child. So whenever I think about the second child, like I was telling you before, I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to parent this child alone. You know, like that means, do I have a support system around me? Does my partner want a child? You know, those are some of the things I ask myself. Am I willing to give up, like, the passions that I have for myself in order to raise a child? You know, now it becomes a conscious decision I'm going to make moving forward.
I think we're at the end of this little sesh, unless there's something else you want to add.
I think just pushing the idea that, you know, you don't have to parent alone. You don't have to take up things simply because you can. You don't have to feel pressed to be a certain kind of mom. I think you can just make a conscious decision of every day. You can wake up and decide, today this is the type of mom I'm being. Tomorrow I'm choosing myself. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole of losing yourself just because you're a mother. The turning point for me, I did therapy, and in therapy I realized I was a people pleaser. Like I really cared about what people think, and I was very ready to put my needs aside to fulfill other people's needs. Then, and my therapist told me, do you know, Cynthia, your son will just become exactly how you are. Like your son, if you're happy to put your needs aside to satisfy other people's needs or to take their opinions, your son will become exactly that. And I was like, hold up, what do you mean? I don't want my son to become that. I want him to follow his dreams and passions. And that was the turning point for me. So it was actually the tipping point, and I did a whole 360 turn from there, because I just want my son to do what makes him happy, to live fully. And I hope I'm living that way so that he'll know that and he's not afraid of doing anything.
You have no idea how much I loved listening to Cynthia's story. Yani, like the mental shift that she brought forth of just like, you're not the only parent, I was just like, hey, because that pressure is a ton, it's a lot, and it just feels like it piles upon us. And yet it might just be us not giving the other parents the chance to really, flex their muscles and really work towards it. So I thought it was quite an interesting perspective, a different one from the norm, but yet something that's very, very important. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast to the very end. I do appreciate all of you who wait to listen to my little rants at the end there. Share this podcast if you feel like it is of value to you, and it will probably be of value to somebody else that you know. Please feel free to do that. And I have quite a number of amazing episodes coming up, so please look forward to those. So I'll catch you guys in the next episode in 2 weeks. Have a good one. Bye.